81% of people in the US want to write a book. And that's all people, but only 3% ever do it.
Welcome to the Built to Scale podcast. That staggering statistic you just heard came from today's guest, Michael Giannulis. So odds are, if you're listening to this, you want to write a book. And let's face it, who doesn't? So in today's episode, we do a deep dive into the psychology of why people want to write a book, what you actually gain from it, even if it never touches the Wall Street Journal bestseller list, and most importantly, why the gap between wanting to and actually doing it isn't as big as you think. Michael built Dictate, a company that turns an expert's knowledge, stories, and ideas into a professionally published book through the power of AI. As Michael puts it, he wants to help 1 million authors change the lives of 100 million people. Quick spoiler, Michael's offering listeners a free author blueprint. Links in the show notes, so listen up and get your creative juices flowing, especially if writing a book has been on your radar. As always, if you like the Built to Scale podcast, please like, subscribe, and just drop a quick comment. It'll make my day. Now, if you're listening, relax. If you're at the gym, pick up the pace because this episode might be the push you finally need to get your book out of your head and into the world. I'm your host, Shmuel Hirschberg, and this is the Built to Scale podcast. Listen up and let's start scaling now. All right, well, let's do this. I'm here today with Mike Giannulis. He is the founder of Dictate, an AI interview to book website. And from my perspective, I feel like this is like a great topic because I personally want to learn about this. But before we get into that, Mike, it's a pleasure to have you on the Built to Scale podcast. And why don't you just give a little intro about yourself, your origin story, and how you got to Dictate?
Sure, I would love to. Thanks for inviting me to be on the show. I'm so pumped to be here. I know you have a great audience, so I'm excited to get to share with them. And, I'm pretty much an open book, so I will teach and share whatever I can. Yeah, I actually started in the marketing world of online back in 2006, which I used to joke that is a long time in internet years, but now it's just a long time,
It's a long time in real years as well.
Yeah, so it's 20 years. And when I started, I was young and I worked as a copywriter, which I didn't even know what that was at the time when I got that job. Someone had read a blog post that I wrote because I put up a blog back then, which is way harder than it is nowadays. And they read it and like, hey, you'd be really good at being a copywriter. And I didn't even know what that was. And, I said, thanks. Well, what is that? And so anyway, she ended up giving me kind of my first job in the space. And so I worked in a small company that did direct mail of all things. So we mailed out like letters and postcards and sold all kinds of wild stuff from like Amish jams and jellies. But I learned a lot about direct response and how do you write these ads and how do you get people to respond. And then when the internet started to pick up, she kind of said, well, you're young, so you go figure that side out. Right. So I got tossed into go figure out. The first thing I did was Google ads. So that was kind of where I got my start. And then as time went on, I started meeting people and I ended up creating some of my own companies. And because my skill sets were around bigger companies as well, I've kind of always had the ability to kind of take something small and sort of scale it up. And so I would find people that were experts in different industries, no matter what they were in. And I would help kind of package around them entire systems. So I would write all their ads, write their sales stuff, structure their products. Because what I found when you start off on the marketing side of things, you're kind of the blame person, right? If the leads aren't good, it's your fault. If there's too many refunds, it's your fault because your ads. If there's chargebacks, it's your fault because of the ads. Whatever it is, always kind of comes back on you. So I got dragged into every area of the company. And over time, I was able to sort of segue that experience into becoming a CEO of multiple different companies that were mainly in the e-commerce space. And we did a lot of education too. So I was able to scale multiple companies in that space, we were one of the first, and not first, but we were early to teaching people how to use Shopify. So yeah, so that's kind of my whole background. And then when AI started coming out, I got way into that because I've always been a weird blend of like marketer creative and then like weirdly like spreadsheet techie. I had that weird combo. So
Nice.
AI for me was just a great fit.
Nice. Yeah, I could definitely relate with that. Can you just tell us, like, maybe, you said you were working on direct response before VSL, before long form landing pages. So, what did those mailers look like?
Oh, yeah. So back then, a lot of what we did was postcards. So those were almost like your ads, right? They were cheaper and you would put out the postcards. And the idea for the postcards was to drive inbound. So people could send for more info. They could call the phone number. They could go to the site if there was a site that went with that offer. And much like today, where you buy Facebook ads, back then you were basically buying, or they would call it renting. You would rent names from magazines and companies like that had targeted people to contact. So you know how nowadays it's not as much, but you can go in and choose interests, right? Well, back then it was more like, I want people that subscribe to Amish magazines, or I want people that subscribe to Home Goods, or I want people that have bought from these companies. And so the credit card companies actually sell a lot of that data. And people don't
Okay,
realize,
so the
people,
targeting was actually granular and
yeah,
very
and
direct.
yes. And then, the goal obviously would be, you would want to, and the term they use is universe. You want a bigger universe of names, which means, it's weird because as much as things have changed, so much of that stuff is just core, right? Like you would find, okay, well, this is a great list, but they only produce 3,000 new people every quarter. So is it worth building a whole campaign where over here, this other offer, they produce 10,000 per quarter. So if you get an offer to convert on that one, and that's what they do, they update names every quarter.
How did you deal with the slow pace of things? I mean, I guess to a certain degree, you don't know what you don't know. So you didn't know perhaps that the internet was coming around, but still, in terms of like the speed of things, in terms of timing, for now, you can start your ads on the weekends or weekdays and stuff like that, and you have a little bit more control in terms of when ads hit. How were you able to do that? How were you able to target so that you were able to get the best results? And then in terms of seeing those results, to follow up. So at what point were you able to follow up to kind of scale those ads?
Yeah. So basically, to one, to speak to the timing. Yeah, it's kind of like everything. You don't know what you don't know, as you said. So things were slow in the sense that it would take like a month to get a campaign built and out the door, and that was fast, right? But yeah, so when you would send out your first batch and you would get your responses in, you would sort of tally those up. So you would look at either click tracking or you would look at inbound call by the count. If you were doing, the thing is, when you're relying on humans too, it's like, did you take down the um, extension? Oh, I forgot, so you have to deal with all of that stuff. But yeah, so in order to scale a campaign, the way that it would work in that space is you would look at your results. If you would want to track it. So it's just like now, do you care about leads or do you care about sales, right? So you would look at your costs versus your sales. And if sales were there and it looked good and you had the right card, then you would then be able to go back to your broker and say, hey, let's go ahead and mail the whole list for this quarter. And then
Okay.
and then you would work backwards until it stopped working. So you would mail the previous quarter and then the previous quarter and then the previous quarter. So it's almost like expanding your audience, right? So you're going backwards in time. Because the things that they talked about were like recency and frequency, right? Those are two of the big ones. So how recently did they buy something, and frequency, how often did they buy something? So if you could get people that had bought multiple things, and I think that's a good marketing kind of thing that seems very counterintuitive. But in general, if you want people to buy whatever it is you're selling, unless it's like a big ticket item, in general, the best sign that they're going to buy from you is they just bought something similar from someone else, which is very odd, I'm not talking about like a car, but things, especially around info or like niche things, hobby things. The best person to buy like a baseball card is someone that just bought one last week, because that's their thing, right? That's what they're into. So that's what you would do when you try to find your targeting. Yeah.
Nice. Let's slow down a little bit and talk about split testing. You mentioned this a little bit earlier. I think one of the most frustrating things about split testing is that people always talk about it and how they see amazing lift, amazing results from the fact that they split tested something. But the other things I hear from people in the trenches is that split testing is dead. You don't really get such a variance in terms of your results.
So when it comes to split testing, I kind of have two views on it, and I think it depends on what sort of mood I'm in. A lot of times, I think that most of what we do, and unless we're like spending a lot of cash on ads, it's tough to say that we're truly doing like what they would call like statistically significant testing, right? So many times I'll see people post a screenshot. Oh, look, I did a split test and this ad only made one sale and this ad made 4. Wow, I'm the best. But then you look at the clicks and it's like 50 clicks, so there's a lot of variance that happens naturally that I think we don't really account for. And humans, we're very biased and we do all kinds of things that don't make sense. And so we'll often make a quick jump to assume that we've got this winner when at scale it might not. So part of me almost thinks split testing is pointless. There's no point to it, right? But I've also kind of seen in my own experiences that I can definitely drive up the value of an offer. I'll give you a small example recently, where we have an upsell. It was always being sold for 97, and it would maybe convert around 14%, which is pretty good for that price point because they're coming in off a 27. And I was able to add, and this also goes against what people say sometimes, but I added a 2-pay of $50. That's all I changed. And instantly,
okay, so you're basically two installments.
Yeah, 2 installments. And instantly I started seeing $50, $50, $50, so the sales would come in. So I didn't necessarily split test it with like a tracker, right? But it was just more of a gut feel because, and here's why I think about this. I've heard this story and I've never verified if this is true or not, but they said, if you see a Coca-Cola machine all by itself, it sells a certain amount. If you put a Pepsi machine next to the Coke machine, then the Coke machine actually sells even more. Before the choice was, do I want a Coke or do I not want anything? And now the choice is, do I want a Coke or a Pepsi or nothing? And so now you have a 2/3 chance.
Well, I would challenge you on that. From what the way I look at it is the first question is a yes or a no question. Do I want a Coke? Yes or no? And then the next question assumes you want the drink and asks you, do you want a Coke or a Pepsi? So they're both yeses, but the question is if you're going to have a Coke or a Pepsi.
Yeah, that's kind of what I think as well. I guess I view it from like a statistical point of view. I view it like it was 50-50 and now it's like 1/3, like it went from 50% to 66%, I guess,
Okay.
Now you have 3 choices.
So you're saying that you are offering buy the upsell for $97 or buy the upsell for 2 installments of $50?
Yeah, or don't buy it, right? So there's 3 options they can pick from. So in my mind now, 2/3 of the options include you paying me something, right? Where before it was only 50%. Now, again,
For
that may
sure,
not
you
be
got to
true.
stack the deck in your favor.
Yeah, yeah, and I've seen people that do that kind of stuff where they call it like I can't remember the term for it right now, but it's like a kind of like a fake offer where it's like one of the offers is so good and the other ones are, I think they call it decoy, right? It's a
Yep.
decoy
Yeah, it's
offer. Yeah,
usually that middle offer, which is basically a little bit more than the. It's basically that's the offer that you want. Like from a psychology perspective, you have your most expensive offer, which most people aren't going to buy, and then you have the middle offer, which is closely related, almost the same price as that lowest offer, where it's almost like a no brainer. Let me just buy that. It's also akin to like popcorn in a movie theater, where once they get you to buy popcorn, to supersize it, also
yeah,
with the drinks and stuff, it just costs a little bit more, but at the end of the day, the margins on it are so big that they could afford to give you more product.
yeah, exactly right.
Cool. So, what's the one skill that you would say that like you took over from the world of direct mail to the world of direct response, internet marketing, and stuff like that?
I mean, I definitely think there's a few things I would say when it comes to like just practical skill, it was definitely copywriting, mainly because when you were going to spend like back then, if you were going to write something, you were going to spend 5 or 10,000 bucks to even test it. So
Okay.
my mentor back then, she would put me through, I mean, the paces. Like she would just, tear my stuff up and this is terrible, this is awful, and this is wrong, and that's wrong. And I would go through 8, 9, 10 times. I remember almost in tears thinking, this is never going to work. This is never going to be good. This is, and
Who
I would
who
write
who
it.
was your mentor?
Her name was Lisa Diane, and she's known in the internet world from back then, but she sort of faded out and kind of she retired around I think 2010 or so.
Let's talk about just in terms of AI and copywriting. I hear and I see. I also studied communications journalism back in the day, and in terms of AI taking jobs and doing things, this is definitely something that uh, it can do at a very high level nowadays. Okay, so how does copywriting still fit into your toolkit today?
I think now the difference, and I got this phrasing from David Deutsch, who's an incredible copy writer, and he talked about this before AI even came out. He talked about the difference between copywriting and copy thinking, he called it. And so that's where I think I have an edge on people because, you can go to any, AI tool and say, write me this, but you don't really know if it's good or not unless you have that skill set. And you don't know how to prompt it. You don't know what you're trying to find. Like if I were to go ask it about like a construction thing and it tells me, oh, use this screwdriver and this, I don't know. I'll try it. I'll see, but I have no idea. Right. So it's kind of like you said with being a journalist, there's a thing where they say, if you're a specialist in the area and you read the newspaper or an article and you realize just how wrong it is, like that's not true, that's not true, that's not true. It's almost like that. You need that. If you don't have that background, it's easy to be tricked, right? And AI will trick you because they're trained to be confident. They're trained to say, do this or do that. So for me, a big thing that I think that it helps to have is to know what good looks like. I will say I do think that the average AI is better than the average human at writing sales copy, just because it's trained more on that stuff. But
Okay,
it
but
will,
average is still average.
right. Yeah, exactly. But sometimes, especially when it comes to like Facebook ads these days, the volume of output is almost more important than quality, which sounds terrible to say, but the way that the AIs are built, even when they run ads, because I'll see it every Monday, I put out about 10 to 20 new ads, and maybe only 3 or 4 of those ever even get shown. The other ones just
Okay.
Facebook like scans them, might show them for like a little bit and then turn them off. So it's like you got to
Okay.
be pushing out more and more. So that's where I think AI has an edge. Is you can say make me 10 different angles, 10 different colors, 10 different this, 10 different that, and it'll it'll go. create it.
Yeah. Yeah. This is for your company now, Dictate, or something
Yes.
else that you're putting out these ads?
Yeah. Yeah. I run them for Dictate
Cool.
and yeah.
Cool. So let's talk about this, because I mean, we talk about in terms of books, there's so many books that never get written. In this information, or some people like to call it the misinformation era. Why is it so important to put out a book, and will it even get read?
Yeah. So that's a great question. And to throw some quick stats out there, yeah, I think 81% of people in the US want to write a book. And that's all people. But only 3% ever do it. So that shows you the gap between what people want and what they do. But when it comes to someone who's an expert in any kind of field, I think when you have a book, it really helps you because it lets people, it's almost like a calling card, right? Whether they read the book or they don't, if you have a book, there's a trust factor there. There's the idea of, oh, this guy or this gal, she knows what she's saying, right? She's a true expert. Having a book gives you that expertise, and it also shows that you started something and you finished it and you saw it through. So there's a big edge to that. Secondly, because of sites like Amazon, it's actually not incredibly difficult to make book sales. Like when I put my book out, Talk Your Book into Existence, I I did a little bit of a push, nothing hardcore. If you're in our space, it wasn't much. A few emails, a few text messages, you know, time it to a certain day, and I became the top seller in my niche that day. I got the screenshot, click, click, and I was actually surprised how easy it was. I was expecting it to be
Amazon
the long.
bestseller.
Yeah, exactly. Previously, I was part of an anthology book that became a USA Today and Wall Street Journal bestseller. So now I got three of them I can stack on my site. I don't really use that one because it wasn't my own book, but I was in it. But I do have it. But yeah, it was cool to see that. And and right now, even I spend $10 a day on Amazon ads, and I make a sale every day or two. Not much. I go in the hole on it, but it's pretty simple. And those people, they turn into some of your best potential customers because and that's the other edge when you do have your own book. If you give the book to someone or they buy it and read it, like it's basically like the world's best sales page, right? Because what is a book? A book is truly a way to demonstrate authority. So you ask, why have a book? That's why, right? Let's demonstrate that I'm an authority in this space, because anybody can go online, pop on a video and talk about they're an expert in this thing or that thing. And I talk to real experts every day, and nothing bugs them more than the 25-year-old kid with, 100,000 followers saying stuff that's not even right. And they're like 40 years old. They know what's going on. They've helped so many people, but they're just like sitting at their house going like, man, if I only, so I feel like part of my calling
For
is to help
sure.
those people get that out there, because it's so unfair that our country awards confidence over competence. And it's just the way it is,
Mhm.
right? So I'm trying to fight that back by giving people the book, which gives them an edge. And then obviously you can't just rely on a book, right? That's like step one. You need more things, but that's where it starts. And that's why I built this company, because our whole goal is we want to help 1 million authors change the lives of 100 million people. The idea being
Okay,
that each,
very cool.
can help do that.
Yeah. Yeah, very cool. So in terms of your take on becoming an author, if I could you know, not mince any words here, it's more about not that who's going to read the book or how many people are going to read the book. It's that you could put that title around your name, and wear that author necklace around your neck.
Yeah, it opens doors too. So it's way more easy to get a gig speaking. You can go and say, "Hey, I'm the author of this book. I would like to speak at your event." They
Yeah.
actually So
for
from
sure.
these authors get paid more to give speeches, whether it's a
Okay.
bestseller or just on Amazon that's made 5 sales. Like it's just that
Yeah,
thing.
I said earlier that I selfishly wanted to hear more about this because this is definitely something that interests me. So your website Dictate is an interesting play because it's not about typing your book; it's about dictating your book. And I think you had mentioned that typing makes people worse at explaining what they know. What's the basis of that? Why do you think that's true?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think it depends on the person. There are some people that just write awesome and they're great, and I would tell them if you're incredible at that, write your own book. Um, I didn't build it for those people, but the majority of like true experts, they're really, and I mean, I'm this way too. Like it's kind of like I'll feel like I don't know anything. I'm like, I don't know anything. But then someone will ask me a question and I'll talk for half an hour, breaking down examples of this story from this time and this thing happened, but you want to do this, don't forget about that. And then I'm done and I'm like, where did that come from? It's like almost like, it's like our brain petitions off different areas. And especially when you know a lot of stuff, I think the more you learn, the less you feel like you know because you then know what you don't know. And because of
Yep,
that,
sure.
that's why the young people that are more confident get out there because they learn like one thing and they just run with it. And when you're a true expert, you know like 20 things. And that's why they joke that an expert's answer is always, it depends. Because it truly does depend, right? Are you doing, what's your goal? What's your this? What's your budget?
Yeah.
What are you trying to do? So what I found in the way we build out the Dictate product is a lot of people, can't, and also, I mean, it takes, it can take more than 500 hours to write a book. Okay. So most people that are professionals don't have that kind of time. They got families, they got kids, they got stuff going on. They have weekly fires they have to put out. There's all kinds of things when you're trying to run a good company. So what I found though is if you can just ask them questions, then you can get a really, really good book. So what I built is it's an AI, but it actually works on the phone. So you call it and he talks to you. His name's Silas, is what I call him. And he actually just, in the first call, he asked you about 15 or 20 questions. Now, the really cool part, and it was extremely hard to build, was that the questions are not static. It's not like ask these 5 things. It's like ask these 1 or 2, and then based off that, ask this, and based off of that. So it's very much like in the moment.
Nice.
And then what it does is it creates an entire blueprint. So in less than half an hour, it'll give you a full blueprint about 25 to 30 pages. It includes like your outline of your chapter. It shows you competitors that you would be up against. It gives you ideas for what to call your book. And I've had people get that and literally cry, like literally
That's
cry.
really cool. That's really cool. You know that Mark Twain, they say he dictated like almost 2,000 pages for his autobiography over the course of a couple of years.
Oh, wow.
Uh, and that's how he got his book written, his autobiography written. And a lot of famous people, I think Churchill, FDR, they were known for dictating their speeches to stenographers back in the day. Obviously, not AI folks, but that's really cool that your site actually not doesn't just capture voice and put that down to text, but it also helps mold the book in a way that these authors could never have. So where are you in terms of your journey? Like you said, mentioned you're on a quest to help 1 million authors reach 100 million people. So how many people
Yeah. So
have
right
you
now
helped?
we're a startup. So we just launched officially. I mean, what's this at time of filming, we've been open about 2 months, and I believe we just sold our 12th book. And so we're not huge yet. I would say
Okay.
but I would say we're, this, I believe, and we'll see this will either make me look like a genius or stupid. But this company has the potential to be the biggest one I've ever built. And I could see this being like a 7-figure monthly company. Not just because of the books, but because we also help with everything else after the books. Because we can build people funnels and all of that stuff. I mean, I'll give you an example. just so you know this, because I think it's kind of fun. One of the things that I built into the thing is, once you have a book, what you don't think about is you have a corpus of knowledge, right? So the way that I built my system is that book becomes the brain of all of our different AI tools that work for you. So for example, every day my AI pulls from my book and creates social media content, right? But it's from the book. It creates the images, the graphics, it even creates uh, videos of me where I'm doing like Instagram stuff. But even
Okay.
cooler is the AI actually booked this very podcast. So I built a
Nice.
tool that actually goes out and it pulls every day, shows things that I would be a fit for. It writes the intros, it emails the guests, it replies back and forth. It even goes, when it comes in, it actually goes on the web and fills out the onboarding form, does everything.
So in terms of just AI, two-part question. Number one, just in terms of AI. So if you're dictating and you're not typing, it's not dictation to type, but rather you're dictating and AI is extrapolating what you're saying and your ideas and basically taking a word jumble, almost like this question, I guess, and putting that into ink, right? A is, can that really be considered your book? Can that be considered my book if that's how I'm going to write a book? And number two is, in terms of your service, Dictate, does that retain any of the IP on the people's books?
Great questions. So question one, now I have to say the whole thing. I'm not an attorney, yada, yada. So it's up to you to go, always ask your own. I've done a lot of research on this, and on my site, I put a big thing on there that kind of breaks down the current case law. So you'll see online, I see these ads all the time. Write a book, 5 prompts, $97, right? And you kind of know at that point what you're going to get. But the issue with any prompt-based book building is that from what I've seen, according to current law, you cannot copyright a book where the majority of the thought and input was created by an AI. So they view that as not something that can be controlled or can be copyrighted. So anyone could take your book and resell it under their own name. And by that I mean, write me a book about financial advising, whatever. You know what I mean? Then you may prompt it back and forth, but you put in a few things. Those kind of books are not really, one, they're not going to be good. And two,
Okay.
there's no way home. But what we've built and what separates us is that we've turned the AI into the role of a ghost writer. So it's really the exact same experience if you were to hire a human to ghostwrite for you. Now, the really cool part that I think was kind of the edge that I was able to bring, because I've written for so many years for so many different types of people, is I was able to use my AI skills so that we don't start to write the book until about 3 to 5 hours in of audio. And the reason why is that I take your spoken voice and I convert it into a written voice. So I have it's called voice DNA, and you can watch in your back office it grow. It'll be like 0%, 10%, 23%, whatever. And it doesn't begin to write in your voice until it's around 70%.
Okay, so it's
And
almost
so,
like an editor that's like learning who you are and your writing style or spoken style for that matter.
yeah. And the other edge to it is everything that they write is your thoughts. It's what you want to say. It just knows how to frame it right. So it's going to ask a lot about, and it depends on your niche. It depends on your framework. So it's not even just we write one book. We have right now 6 different types of books, and the AI decides what book that is after the first or second call. So the questions change based on the book type. Memoir type book, is it framework book, is it a systems book, what will write, those kind of things, it'll change. And so that interviewing is what makes it especially yours. And because we have all that, you can always prove, no, these are my ideas. These are my thoughts. I just use the AI to help me structure them. And so that's what separates us from just any other book writing service.
So does your company retain any rights?
Yeah.
Or is it fully the author's
So
work?
as of right now, no, we don't do any of that. It's completely yours. You own it completely. We don't have our hands in anything. I'm exploring potentially for the right people, a partnership structure if and when it makes sense. But right now, no, it's just like, if you want to write a book, it's yours. We don't own anything. We just help you. We're more of like a book writing service, right? You pay us, we help you do whatever it is you want to do. The main goal for everyone when they first get started is we want to get their book done. And we also give you a lot of tools along the way. So, it's not just a book too. So because I know how people are and they get stuck, right? So it's pretty much end to end. So we design your cover, we format the book, we even write all your material for Amazon. We can offer audiobook. We set up your paperback. We do all of it. So all you do is talk on the phone, 5 to 10 hours. And that's it.
You're saying that 10 hours, you're saying you have a book in 10 hours?
And 10 hours of talking, and then you would have to, most people like to review it, so you can review it. We have an inbuilt editor, and it lets you just click and fix stuff if you want, or you can highlight sections and you can tell the AI rewrite this because of this problem or that thing. And every time you do that, it actually is training your voice to improve.
Yeah.
And you can add images too, which is quite cool. So if you want to add like a graph, a chart, you hit the little plus sign, and you can choose a chart, a graph, a pie chart, or whatever, and you describe it, and bam, it's created instantly. And that becomes part of your book too.
So we're talking about 10 hours of production time. So I imagine you're really cutting down the amount of time. But from an investment perspective, what is the monetary investment? How much does it cost?
Basically, we charge as a flat $5,000. So it's not that bad. We have financing, we have payment options. And again, that's end to end. Like, you're pretty much coming in with nothing, and you're out the door with your book published live on Amazon, Kindle format, and paperback. And we even give you a launch plan to go on your own if you want to do your own little Amazon bestseller. The other cool thing that we also do, because of my background, we give you a cover vote page. So you can pick, we create about 20 different covers, and then we give you, and then you can pick your top 6, and we create a site for you, and you have, friends, family, social following go vote. And when they vote, we ask that they opt in. So they're going to get on your pre-list.
Yeah. So we're talking about like a mid-ticket, high-ticket offer, $5,000, right? It's not going to be an impulse buy, right? It's not going to be something that you see once on Facebook or once on Instagram or once on LinkedIn or whatever. I would imagine you're going to need a lot of touch points and stuff. So from a go-to-market scale perspective, what's your approach for this? Where are you investing? What do you see on the ground in terms of scaling?
Yeah. So there's a few different strategies. Obviously, one is like this, right? Doing podcasts. You get out there and you kind of build the brand up from the ground up. My specialty has always been on the paid ads side. So right now, we're not spending a lot. We're spending about $6,000 a month on meta ads. And what I actually sell people is a blueprint. So that very first call for $27, it's like, hey, go here and get your, you've there's been a book in your head, blah blah, that kind of angle. But let's get it out of your head. So we sell that, and there's a little, few things on the way, order bumps, upsells, and yeah. So then they do the call with the AI. They get the report almost every time. They're shocked, because again, you're getting it out of your head, but seeing it on paper is just such a cool experience. At the first time I did mine as a test, even me, I was like, this is crazy, but yeah, that's kind of what we do. And then after they get the blueprint, then they get offered, hey,
Then you upsell them.
yeah, you can
So it's
take the book.
basically like a lead gen, but you're charging for the lead gen.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's kind of what I've always done, is because, a buyer is worth way more than a opt-in, right?
For sure. For sure.
Yeah.
So have you ever gotten like, I mean, you said you just kind of had like a soft launch, but are you anticipating or have you had pushback from people that bought the, $27 blueprint and basically write in and be like, this is a scam. I thought I was getting a book. Obviously, $27 is too good to be true. And they say if an offer is too good to be true, it's probably not true. But nonetheless, have you gotten pushback from people saying like,
No,
what did I pay for?
I haven't got that yet, because I'm very clear that it's not the whole book. I'm very much upfront about that. It's a blueprint. So that's kind of what I'm selling is, hey, get the blueprint. I don't say you're getting a whole book, because that's dumb.
Are you thinking about doing it for free? This, just to give away a free, just get your blueprint. I mean, once you cover your expenses, I guess for making this blueprint AI tool and stuff, and that it could theoretically, just open up the floodgates in terms of getting people in. Obviously, you'd get a lot more people, but you would get the free ones, which wouldn't give you that value.
Yeah. Well, yeah. So I do. So you were asking about my different strategies. So there is a free pathway in, which I use
Let's hear it.
I use that for LinkedIn when I'm doing. I have like an auto outreach kind of tool there, and but I focus that one currently because I found like a little sub niche within this space, which has been of all people, pastors. It's been like a neat little sub niche that I wasn't expecting. There's been quite a few of them, but it makes sense when you think about it, because they talk. That's their job, and most of them want a book, but they don't have one. So I've seen a lot of those. So I do like an outreach with kind of a free offer for people that are in that world. And
how did you stumble upon that?
Just seeing, it was weird when I turned on the ads. The first like 3 or 4 people that bought were all pastors. And I called them myself, the first maybe 10 calls, I like to call myself. And it was like, I would see their emails like Pastor Ray at blah, blah church, or this, it was kind of like that, or like theology for the day at whatever.com. And so the more I talk to them, I will say the trade-off is they don't have as much capital, right? So for them, it's hard. I had one guy that, I tried every way I could. He just couldn't do it, and I feel bad, because I want to help everyone, but I'm like, I can't even cover my costs, at that price. So, that's kind of what I do. So and then the other thing too, that I also just started, and again, this is all automated with my AI tools. Just as I'm finding shows like you to be on at the same time, because I'm already paying for that data, I'm looking at who the guest is, and I'm seeing if they're a good fit for a book. If they are, my AI will either outreach to them via DMs or email and offer them a free blueprint. So that's
okay. Well, maybe I'll put you on the spot here. Maybe our listeners can get a free blueprint.
Yeah, I was going to give them a free kind of framework quiz, but I will do that.
We'll put it in the show notes, and we'll kind of leave this as a surprise. So, I just want to take maybe like a few minutes, just thank you for coming on. And obviously I wish you a ton of success. And maybe you could just tell listeners, obviously we're going to put that in the show notes. It's going to be available for a limited time only, subject to terms and conditions, of course. Yeah. But maybe you could just tell listeners how they could learn more about you, about your company, and how they could, I guess, live their dream and write a book.
Yeah. So, learn more about the company and me at startdictate.com. In the show notes, I will have a link to get your own free blueprint. I think that's the best thing that you can do is just book that call, and you'll be amazed. You'll be amazed at the output that you get, because again, when you're an expert, you don't even know how much you know, and you'll be shocked because the AI will ask you things, and you'll just talk, and you'll hang up, and not even 10 minutes after that, you'll get this email with this beautiful designed report. And you'll probably for the first time, you'll be like, wow, this is actually real. This could actually happen. And we have people right now that say they go through, there's multiple people, which I found kind of shocking. But I think I've had 3 people tell me that they cried as they're getting their book, because
Wow,
that's how powerful it is.
amazing.
It's an emotional thing. Cause people, this is like their dream, that's what they've for 10 years, they've said, I'm going to write a book, but so now they have their chance. This is a way and it works. And all you got to do is talk and we can all talk, you know what I mean?
Awesome. For sure. 100%. Mike, this has been really good. And obviously I think I might give this a try myself. So I'm looking forward to seeing what this can do for me. So I just want to thank you again for coming on the Built to Scale podcast.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thanks for listening to the Built to Scale podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure to subscribe to the podcast so you never miss a conversation about what it really takes to build and scale in today's market. For more information about Built to Scale and how we help companies grow, visit builttoscale.co. If you have suggestions for future guests or topics, send us a note at podcast@builttoscale.co. We'd love to hear from you. Until next time, this is your host, Shmuel Hirschberg. And remember to keep building, keep testing, and keep scaling.